Hello everyone, this is a video on my thoughts about the new cards coming out in the Frost Mage versus Lavamancer Precon deck that will be released in November. So the ones that have been spoiled so far. I'm going to start, I'll go through each of them that I can access. Two of them towards the end are hard to see, and we'll need to talk about deducing what you think is going on with them from the promotional poster. But here with these ones that are on this site, it's pretty easy. So I'm going to look at Shatter first. 1 mana, 1 air threshold, exceptional magic. Destroy a nearby target artifact or disabled minion. I think that this has a lot of appeal in regards to Ring of Morrigan. Ring of Morrigan is a game where it will win the game for your opponent if they are the one who gets the Ring of Morrigan and you aren't. As those of us who have been playing since the Arthurian Legends meta are well aware. And just the mere fact that you've got something that can destroy an artifact is quite nice. However, destroying a disabled minion I think it's like a new mechanic. I don't think there's anything else that does that yet so far. This is like a new to Frost Mage kind of game mechanic that's being introduced. And this card is very specific. The spellcaster has to be nearby to the target to use it. They've got to be disabled before you can kill them. And they've got to have an artifact for you to have a valid target to destroy. With if you go by the route of just destroying just an artifact that happens to be nearby, you can't do it from even with Disenchanted Dispelled, you've got to be within 2 steps. So you can do it for further than nearby if it's directly in front, like if it's a direct cardinal direction from the spellcaster to where the artifact is. I think this spell will be good in a deck that's built around its tech, around this new mechanic of destroying disabled minions. I think it'll be very good so long as it's always going to be valuable in your hand and you're not going to have a dead card in your hand. Separate from like let's say for some reason cards that were in these precon decks were in a draft or a sealed event, like a limited event. This card on its own, you probably wouldn't take and put into the deck unless you were desperate for a card, like in sealed, where you need to shore up your air cards from your pool of sealed cards. And also, it would be nice if once again you happen to have gotten cards in that limited event that this synergizes with, or otherwise it's going to be just like this completely dead card. But that being said, that is limited and constructed to where there's Ring of Morrigan. You're always going to have a chance of seeing like an artifact, quite possibly, but that could be quite problematic in the case of Ring of Morrigan, or some others like Chains of Prometheus in certain Enchantress or Archimago decks. And then this would be quite nice to have, but then on other occasions you're going to be playing with it, you're just not seeing an artifact, and if you don't have the destroy a disabled minion synergy, it'll just be a dead card in your hand. So in specific decks, this will be good. If it's in other decks, you wouldn't take it, it'd be a dead card. After Shatter, I think I'll look at the air cards first, and then we'll talk about Frost Mage, because they kind of do belong together. Aria Wraith, 3 mana, 1 air threshold, minion this time, 2 power, spirit, elite spirit, stealth, break stealth, destroy all artifacts and disabled minions nearby. This card, in general, is pretty good. For 3 mana, having a 2 power stealth, that's also spirit, which means it synergizes with evil presence, which is in air, which means you get charged, and the charging unit, this one can't be blocked if you want to use it just to chip away for 2 damage. You could put it on an avatar that's on death's door with evil presence and just charge, and they can't block it, and you could win the game because of that alone. And then it has like a break stealth ability, which you can do even with Summoning Sickness. You can just do it as soon as you play it. No tap. Destroy all artifacts and disabled minions nearby. Once again, this is a little bit like Shatter. If your deck is tailored to synergize with this destroy disabled minions ability, and then as well as artifacts is okay as well, but sometimes you won't see them, sometimes you will. This card will be quite strong in a deck that synergizes with that ability, this break stealth ability. If it doesn't, it would be weaker. But in general, like if you got this in a limited pool, it's got lower power than its mana cost, but it's also got stealth. The fact that you get like a stealth for 2 power in limited is not so bad. Like it's okay. That also even has this ability, like sometimes in limited there could be an artifact that's annoying, and you might have something else in that limited pool that could disable, and then you could use this to break stealth to destroy it. It'd be okay in limited, and better if, so long as you can get another. You have something else to synergize with it. A little bit like what I would say for Constructed. In Constructed, if you don't have a deck that synergizes with the break stealth ability, and just this card in general, like with Spirits, it's not going to be that good. It's quite significantly because it's got this power than its mana cost. But if you've got it in a deck that synergizes with what it does, it is much stronger, I would say. It also has this new mechanic of destroying disabled minions. So whether or not there will be strong decks that it will belong to will be determined by what else we see comes out with it. It's rumoured that some of these cards that are going to be in the Frostmage versus Lavamancer precon decks are also going to be in a set that comes out later. But like that may just be rumour for all I know. I'm not certain if it's been completely confirmed that that's definitely true yet. So yes, that would be my answer. That would be my perspective on Aria Wraith. We'll move now on to... I think I'll do Frostbolt first before Frost Elemental. Frostbolt. 3 mana, 1 water, 1 air threshold, so Mist spell. Exceptional magic. Shoot a 3 damage projectile on impact. All adjacent units are disabled until your next turn. Do I think that this spell is strong? My answer is yes, I do. Basically, I do. Water does not necessarily have the best projectile finishes in the game. Ice Lance does not have the same range as Heat Lance. Snowball is expensive. It's not, and it's exceptional. Though so is this as well. So whatever. And then Ice Shards is okay, but it's nothing super good. Like it's not something to write home about. This seems very strong to me. You've got to be in Mist, you've got to be in both water and air, but if you're running a deck where you are into both of those twos, this seems like a very strong card. You get a 3 damage projectile that could disable all these targets at all those different areas surrounding where the projectile impacts, so like on the side where it hits the unit, and then adjacent units everywhere else. It does it to your own as well, which you need to be careful of, but like the fact that you could disable that many for an entire turn, enemy minions. It says units. It's on impact, all adjacent units are disabled, which suggests that it can disable avatars, but it can't because you can't disable avatars. So unless there's about to be a rules change when Frostmage versus Lavamancer comes out, and they're going to make it so for some reason you can disable avatar so long as you have a card that says that you can, which in this case this one would be able to do. That really should actually be minions. That word there should be minions. It can't units. The only difference with describing it as units is that it means avatars as well as minions, and you can't disable avatars, so you might as well have just said minions. But we'll see. They might have like new rules that are in the pipeline for being able to disable avatars. Once upon a time, avatars couldn't get airborne. Then come Dragon Lord, they changed the rules, so they can get airborne. Which you can use Witching Hour on them to give them airborne, as well as just like a Dragon Mage becoming a Dragon Lord becoming a dragon that has airborne. This card in general, like you've got to be in Mist, you've got to be in those thresholds, but if you are, it's really good. It's great. Like all these things you can disable that don't do damage back to your own minions that can now potentially swing at them, so long as they can be close enough without getting disabled themselves. I think it's very strong. If you were to see this say in limited, you'd be like it's a projectile that gives you a finisher. If you're in air and water in that limited deck, you've got a finisher now. You've got like a 3 damage projectile that you can use to win the game if they're on death's door, and then you've got all of this board control to last another turn. With the amount of disable you can do all over the place. And then once again, just like in Construct, you could perhaps disable something that you can then swing at with one of your own minions, or one or two of your own minions that didn't that weren't in the area where they got disabled themselves. Very strong. Let's look, before we look at Frost Mage in a moment, I just want to have a quick look at this Frost Elemental. So 4 mana, once again missed 2 water, 2 air. It's another minion, another spirit, exceptional spirit. Air and water spellcaster. Genesis disabled target adjacent unit until your next turn. There it is again, once again it's unit, not minion. I have a feeling they're going to bring out some sort of rule that makes it so you can disable avatars when Frost Mage versus Lavamancer comes out. What would that mean? It would only it would only be until their next turn, so it's during your turn. It basically would just mean that enemies couldn't block if they wanted to, if they were untapped, and they could be swung at and not do damage back. Interesting. But at the moment, as I understand it, there has been no such rules change that you can disable avatars, and that would be a pretty big deal if they had done that. Everyone would be talking about it. So at the moment, that should really be minion, and given that it's on more than one card, I have a feeling that there's going to be a rules change that makes it so you can disable avatars. Is this card good? Yes, it is. It is. It's pretty good. Some will argue that it's not as good as Gargantula, but others could argue that Gargantula is one of the best spells in the entire game. Gargantula is in a completely different element. It's a different rarity, elite, and 3 earth. It's a different element, so you can't sort of have it in a mist deck. You can have this. This is a spirit, which means it gets charged from Evil Presence. Evil Presence is in air. It's in air, even if in water as well. There's some spirit synergy with water as well in regards to Evil Presence, like Ghost Ship is a water minion, and that brings spirits back when it enters new sites. Air and water spellcaster is okay. Water has some positioning. Earth and air don't seem to have as many position-dependent spells as water and fire. Water does. Ice Lance and Ice Shards kind of snowball as well, but it goes the whole row or column. They have positional-based spells. Oh, and then there's Frost Nova, even though it's not nowhere near as popular and constructed by miles than Poison Nova. Frost Nova, it's the same sort of thing, is water. So a water spellcaster is okay in regards to having something that can give you that positioning. It's not as strong as when it's a fire spellcaster, but it's still useful. And then for 4 mana, with the 4 power that's got the same amount of power as its mana cost, you get the ability to disable something adjacent until your next turn. That's really a lot of value for the one exceptional minion card. Like if you were to get this and you're in Mist, Water, Air in a limited draft, you would want to take this. For a starter, 4 power is quite good to have in limited anyway. You get to have a strong minion like that is very, very useful in limited anyway. And then it also has this genesis of its disabling target units, which means you can make their enemy minion that had airborne that you couldn't do anything about, especially if you don't have as much magic spells or removal because it's limited. You could make their enemy minion that's airborne suddenly no longer airborne, doesn't do any damage back. You can get rid of it with your own minions. It's just, that's terrific value, but it's an exceptional. You wouldn't see it very much in limited as well. I probably should have said that about the Aria Wraith. Let's check what it's called. It was Aria Wraith. I probably should have said that about Aria Wraith in regards to limited. This is even separate from these pre-con decks. If they're in a set where you can draft or play sealed, it's an elite. You won't see it very much in regards to limited. But let's go back to the Frost Elemental. In constructed, with the right synergies, it's excellent. It's very high on threshold. It's high on threshold. Its biggest limitation, this is obviously the same with the lava element we'll get to in a moment, is that it's very taxing on this threshold. But if you're in these elements, you've built a deck that's missed, you won't struggle to get that threshold much, and this is pretty good value. It's pretty good value for an exception. I'm going to move to the next one. I think we'll look at Frost Mage, which how that it ties in with cards that look like this. These ones we've just looked at, and then I'll look at the Lava and cards, and then the Lavamancer. Let's have a look at Frost Mage. All right, so Avatar, the usual tap, play or draw a site, the standard sort of function or mechanic of an avatar, except for Pathfinder, and then with extra with Geomancer. 2 air, 2 water, so the same cost in threshold as that elemental. 2 mana. Once on your turn, in case target nearby minion in ice, it is disabled and takes no damage until your next turn. Is that good? In the right deck, and this is very similar to the answer of those other cards, in the right deck that synergizes with this ability, yes it is. You don't have to tap to do it, so it's an avatar that does something without having to tap. The fact that you can disable like one of your own minions, they can't be damaged, so if it has summoning sickness you can encase it, wait for it to be to thaw out at the start of your next turn so that it can now tap and swing without summoning sickness, or that you can use it to stop to remove another enemy minion from being a problem for you for the time being, to stop it from being able to block, or to make it so it can be attacked to do damage to it without your minions taking damage back. That for this, so long as you're very much in a mist deck, like an air water deck with this avatar, rather obviously, seems reasonable to me. Quite good. How good this avatar will be dependent on what else is out there in whatever sets that you can use with this avatar's ability. The fact that there's those spells like Shatter that you can use to remove a minion, or Aria Wraith to remove a minion that is, destroy a minion that is already disabled, synergizes very well with this. So that's going to be good, but how much more of that kind of mechanic is there going to be available? If it's only that, not so good, this avatar's not quite so good. If there's a lot of that, it gets better. So we'll see. I'm going to look at the lava cards first before we look at the Lavamancer. There's not as many here on this menu, so I'm going to just look at Ground Slam first. 4 mana, 1 earth, 1 fire, exceptional magic. An ally strikes at sight. Deal 2 damage to other units at nearby sites. So long as you're in earth fire, so long as you're lava, this looks pretty good to me. It deals 2 damage to other units nearby, so it hits your own, so it can be dangerous, but fire's like that. I mean, if you play with Vesuvius a lot, and I do, I've been playing like my Flame Caller all throughout Beta and AL, and then I play Mono Fire Pathfinder as my main in the current Gothic meta. Fire is like that with things that will damage you as well. Poison over hits you, it's just the way it is. This seems good to me, like for that 1 magic, you get to have an extra attack, sometimes from a very powerful minion, no doubt, on the site. So I can attack the site, and then it gets to strike the site again. So that's a little bit like the double damage you'll get from like Whirling Blades or something. Like sometimes you'll hit the avatar with Whirling Blades, and then you get to swing as well. You get a lot of damage. You can door when they were on quite high. This is like that. This is a spell, an exceptional spell that's like that already. You get to strike with a minion, or not even a minion, sorry, with a unit that has already struck. So you get that extra damage, and then it does another 2 damage. Again, the enemy avatars nearby, you add that 2 damage on top of that damage you've already done, like that. I think that's very strong. And then it remains to be seen how it will now synergize with other things that are out there. Its drawback is that 2 damage will hit your own things, but because you're controlling what's going on in your own turn with what's still left and things like that, that should be something that you can work around reasonably well. And it wouldn't be the only sort of fire spell that is detrimental because of its capacity to damage you as well. Like it's like not just Vesuvius, it's also Major Explosion. Sometimes it's really hard to position without taking 3 damage yourself. Like when R3 Legends came out, I could tell you about all the times I wanted to cast it with Morgana Le Fay, but I didn't want Morgana Le Fay. It was annoying that she'd have to take 3 damage herself and be killed from her angle for the 2 steps to play that Major Explosion. I think this Ground Slam is quite strong. Lava Elemental, the opposite of Frost Elemental. 4 mana, 2 fire, 2 earth. Exceptional Spirit, so it's another exceptional minion. For 4 power minion, it obviously mirrors the Frost Elemental. Earth and Fire Spellcaster, Genesis, deal 2 damage to target adjacent unit. Do I think this is good? I certainly do. So already you've got something that has the same power for its mana cost, which is okay. It's taxing, it's high in threshold. But if you've built a lava deck, this won't be so bad. So obviously it's got to be in like a sort of a deck that can handle that threshold. But if it can, I think it's quite good. Earth and Fire Spellcaster, Earth Fire Spellcaster, whatever. But Fire Spellcaster, fire is an element where you have a lot of good spells. You have a lot of spells where positioning of the spellcaster is really important. Like case in point, I was just talking about Morgana Le Fay during Arthurian Legends being frustrated with trying to play Major Explosion and having to cause 3 damage to her if I wanted to do it where I wanted to do it. Because it can only be cast like 2 steps away, and then it has like a 3x3 grid damage area with 3 damage on the diagonal corners. If this lava elemental casts Major Explosion itself in that kind of situation, it won't kill itself. It's a 4 power. And then fire has a lot of good like spells where you want to play it from a spellcaster for that other spellcaster that's not your avatar's positioning, like Poison, Nova, Firebolts, Minor Explosion, Major Explosion, and then they always bring out like new ones. There's things like Flame Strike in the new set. And then its Genesis of deal 2 damage to a target adjacent unit, so the same as like a Vile Imp, is also really useful. I mean, for 4 mana, you're getting 4 power, and you can use that to get a little bit of extra damage onto, say, the enemy avatar straight away, a little bit of extra damage onto a stronger than 2 power minion that then helps something else you've got that does not have Summoning Sickness swing and remove it, or it could be used to remove a 2 power or 1 power that was going to be a problem for this lava elemental later in regards to a potential blocker or the one that could swing into the lava elemental to remove it before it's had a turn to pass, so it no longer has Summoning Sickness. It is great value for its mana cost, and the threshold is high. But like, so long as you're in these elements, that's manageable. I think it's a very good card. Fire Spellcaster is one of the best spellcasters for a minion to be, based on that positioning, and then also packed with the Devil. This is really useful. Like at Vile, it's not just an accident. Vile Imps are one of the best minions in the game, and this does the same thing as a Vile Imp, which you can find very versatile and useful as well. I think it's a very, very strong card. That brings us to Lavamancer. So the other avatar that's coming out in the precon boxes. So the usual tap, play, draw a sight. It's an avatar, 20 power, no extra attack power. For 2 earth, 2 fire, 3 mana, pull apart a partial row or column, filling the resulting void with rubble that deals 1 damage to minions near it. Is this avatar going to be good? It depends on what else is out there, but generally speaking, at the moment, there's a type of Archimago in the current Gothic meta, and I've got a Sorcerer that does something similar, but I think that the person who cooked it up, the Archimago, they started out with Mono Earth, but they evolved it to Fire and Earth, that bricks your opponent in with sights, like it tries to sort of brick them in with sights so that they end up having less sights and you dominate the board with the number of sights you have, using things like Landmass, which in the case of Archimago, they can cast Landmass again from the cemetery, and using things like Imperial Road as well. They try to brick the opponents in. And in the case of that Archimago deck, you can run it with Erd's Plats to utilise like sights from your collection instead of utilising Toolbox with ordinary spells, which is the most common use of a collection, or the masks in the case of an imposter, or more rarely people will use silver bullets. This avatar could be very powerful for running a deck like that. And for one big reason, which is you don't have to tap to do this ability, which means if you pull apart a partial row or column and then create a void where you've pushed sort of a site from a partial row or column, you can now play a site, tap him to play a site on that rubble after you've done the damage. The one damage to minions near it, not avatars. So you can't use that to finish the enemy avatar. And that's important. But so that means, like, let's say you've got 4 mana, you've got 4 sites, they've got 4 sites, a typical kind of T pattern, 2 capital T's joining together in the middle. You can push one of their sites that's they've developed into their second row, mirroring you forward, create that rubble, and then play another site. Then they can develop further back or over to the other side, and then you can play like another site over there, but then you can still push that site of theirs back again with this ability to then fill it with another site again. If you've got enough mana, eventually you can be doing that with landmass, combining it with landmass, etc., etc. You can really sort of push them back with your ability, and then make sure you follow up with a site to brick them in. And then that'll give you a lot of, and then this ability will also give you a lot of sites that are connected to their sites further and further along in the game, which means you can play with Toolbox if you want to, but you might even have it just in your deck, a very, very powerful Borderlands Militia. And something else that's synergizes well with Borderlands Militia is Onslaught, the lava spell from Gothic that's fire, that's earth and fire, which I have a feeling if there's Gothic and Arthurian Legends and beta cards in the Lavamancer and Frostmage decks, will probably already be in the Lavamancer's deck, but I'm not sure. Like, it's possible they might only have new cards in these 2 decks, so we'll see. You play Onslaught with who knows how many Borderlands Militia. You give them all charge, +1 power, they can't be disabled. You can start dishing out a lot of damage like token Magos do. Because this gets countered by one of the new, I think the best of the new courts that have just come out, which is called Mock Court, the Air One Mock Court. Borderlands Militia specifically is the aspect of this situation that gets countered very powerfully by Mock Court. But if they don't have a Mock Court, and you can make that work, it can work very well in that way. And then the 1 damage that the rubble creation does can clear some other 1 power minions that could have blocked them, your own Borderlands Militia, from now charging with Onslaught. All of which synergizes with this, with lava, with running a lava deck. Something else that used to be done in a lava deck, like Fury Road during beta, one thing that you could do is you could have Slumbering Giantesses, and one of the ways of having Earth to have Slumbering Giantesses and then Fire to make Fury Road work was that you had access to a lot of minions like colloquially Dragonets, Kobolds, Vile Imps that could do damage to the Slumbering Giantess to wake them up. This is another way to wake up your own Slumbering Giantesses. However, it's in the meta by now of Gothic when you have like a 60-card spellbook, and Slumbering Giantesses and Fury Road was not really that good anymore by Arthurian Legends with a 50-card spellbook when you've only got access to 3 Slumbering Giantesses that you can now have. During Arthurian Legends, you could only have a 50-card spellbook, and now a 60-card spellbook in Gothic. So unless they bring out another Earth card that functions like Slumbering Giantess, that's called something else, that could sort of shore up the number of cards like that to make it worthwhile, I wouldn't worry too much about that strat. They could do, but I don't know. But like this, the boxing in with the current Gothic meta is already a valid kind of deck build. Like I have one of my second favourite deck that's not my mono fire pathfinder is a sorcerer that does that, and then there's an Archimago that does it, that's lava, that's earth fire. So you could do that with the Lavamancer as well, very effectively with this avatar ability. But you can't really do much else. Like once you've used the ability to do that, later on in the game, he's almost like a spell slinger. He can't do anything anymore. So if it wins, but later on in the late game when the board is filled, there's nothing else he can do with his avatar ability anymore. So we'll see. That's all from these cards that are on this page, but I will move to some others that are elsewhere and just quickly talk about them. So this one was released later. the White Death, 2 mana, 2 air, 2 power minion. This time it's a mortal, a unique mortal. Range 3, stealth, lethal while stealthed. When this card first came out and I read the name, the White Death, I was thinking to myself, I could have sworn that was the name of that sniper in World War II, like his nickname or something like that. Maybe, I'm not sure. I didn't look into it, and then soon enough, like the day after, people were going on about it on Facebook, about that actual sniper. I think it might have even been staff at Eric Skirosa, limited potentially on the official Facebook group. I'm not sure though, but people were definitely pointing out that it's the nickname of Sisu, I think was his actual name, the sniper during World War II that I'd read about a year ago or so on Wikipedia extensively. Is this card good? Yes, it is. Yeah. For 2 mana, 2 air threshold, a stealth unit that isn't removed unless they've got a way of removing him when he has stealth, that has a whopping ranged 3, can shoot from the back row to the back row, who, when he shoots from stealth, has lethal with his 2 power shot. That's incredibly good. Like, that's very, very strong and solid. The fact that he's a 2 power stealth unit already is okay. Like, it means he's got stealth you can swing into a side or something and they can't block, let alone lethal with that 2 power strike that transfers to range 3. Very, very strong, and immortal, which means he's in danger of being targeted by the Jack the Ripper, but also means being taken over by King of the Realm, but also gets buffed up by your own Kings of the Realm, whatever. Yeah, I think it's a very strong card. Not only in that Frost Mage deck, which I'm assuming it'll be coming out in, but just in general. Like, I think if you're in air, this one's kind of like one of those cards that's just sort of probably worth it just to take for its own value on its own. Let's move to the next ones. We've already looked at Ground Slam, but Ground Slam's just here where there's Smoldering Hollow I want to look at. Elite Sight, so the first sight we'll be looking at. Fire Threshold. Genesis damage dealt to nearby units, so units, including avatars, is increased by 1 this turn. If you could synergize this with Onslaught and Borderlands Militia, whatever, actually, because it's units, it's not sites. Like, if you're charging with Borderlands Militia onto their sites, you're not going to get any extra damage. You need to do damage to units. I think this is okay. I think it's an okay site in fire. So this is the kind of the scenario I'm thinking about. Like, let's say you could have ordinarily played Desert to hit a Lugbog Cat that's nearby the desert you've played, and then you play a Red Cap Poweries to swing into the Lugbog Cat to remove it. You can do the same thing with this. You're going to make it so your Red Cap Poweries is going to take more damage back, but if you don't care because you're going to sacrifice it to remove, you can make it so they do more damage, and thus can remove a 4 power. And fire has a lot of 3 powers and not necessarily always as many 4 powers to deal with enemy more powerful minions. I think it's okay. I think it's an okay size. You do damage back to yourself. It depends on what else is out there that's coming out that you can tie with this. I don't think you'll see this much, but I think it's okay. It looks like it'd be okay. With a very sort of specific deck that can work well with it, I think you'll be likely to see. It's a little bit like what I was saying about some of the other cards. Our next two are these last 2 sites, one of which is not visible with the name or something. However, if you read the first part of this one where you can see the name, which is Tundra, it looks like this final part of the string in the game text box finishes what is being said here, which suggests, and this is not exactly that remarkable to figure out, that this site will have earth and fire thresholds. Your earth and fire are equal, and then we pick up here where we can finally see the string to the highest of the 2 thresholds, and the Tundra's extra part of its game text box string that we can't see is your earth and air are equal to the highest of the 2. So that's what they do. In Magic the Gathering, there are dual lands that came out in, I think, Alpha and Beta definitely 3rd edition, which is the one I was playing when I was a boy. And one of those is a white-blue, excuse me, site, which is Tundra. Based on that, I was watching a video the other night where Frogamago was talking about this, and that he thinks that there's, in Magic the Gathering of those dual lands, there's also a black-red dual land that's called Badlands, and he thinks this one is likely to be called Badlands. I think that's a pretty good guess. It would make a lot of sense. It looks like Badlands to me, something you'd think would be described as Badlands to me, given this is one has the name of the white-blue dual land from Magic the Gathering. It makes sense that this one would be called Badlands. Do I think these sites, which both going to be, I'm assuming this one will be elite as well. In fact, I think you can even see enough to make that determination. Yeah, it's an elite site. Do I think these sites will be good in Mist, Air, Water, in Earth, Fire? I definitely do. Yes, these could be very, very useful to get threshold security. Would you want to run more than one? I don't think so, even though you can because they're elite. Like if you already have one, then you play another, it's redundant. It's just doing the same thing that this one does. But I think you'd be likely, there'd be a good chance to see one of these in a deck of those element combinations. They could be very useful to make sure that your thresholds are doing okay, especially if there's enough spells that need equal of the two threshold, like the Frost Elemental or the but that need more than one, like Frostbolt and Ground Slam need only one of each. If you had plenty of spells like Frost Elemental or Lava Elemental, then these would be very, very likely to be seen. In Legends, Sir Lancelot was 2 Earth and 2 Fire, but he wasn't that popular, like he wasn't used that well, but I didn't honestly necessarily see all that many lava decks in Arthurian Legends, so that might be why. Of the Air, Water, 2 Air, 2 Water sites, it was Sir Gareth. Once again, you did not see him very often, and you often didn't play him for those 2 Air or 2 Water costs. If you were going to play him, you were going to use his ability that only needed 1 Air and 1 Water to get rid of another mortal to replace with him. I think that these two will be, one of them in a deck that is in both those elements will be likely to be seen to help with threshold, but even then maybe not, because sometimes I feel like when you're in 2 elements anyway, you really usually can get your threshold under control. Unless they play an Atlantean Fate, then an Atlantean Fate is likely to quite possibly take away your threshold that you were depending upon to get the other threshold up with one of these sites. That's what I think. I should imagine they'll go well, they'll synergize well, perhaps in their Frost Mage deck or their Lavamancer deck that's coming out, these pre-con decks that are coming out. But separate from that, you might see one, you might not, because people who are only into elements will probably be confident that they can get all the threshold they need anyway. Alright, so that's everything. That's my thoughts on these cards. So that will do, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'd be interested to see what anyone else might have to say down in the comments about the cards that are coming out.